afternoon. My name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you that are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, Kickstarting 2026 Cybersecurity Hot Topics Every Small Business Must Know, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. Save the date for our next cybersecurity webinar taking place next week on February 19th, Protecting Your Business in 2026, Cybersecurity Essentials for Small Business Owners. And I'll drop that registration link into the chat momentarily. We are recording today's presentation and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of expected participants, everyone's microphone is muted and the chat feature is turned off. But if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box and we will adjust them at the end of the session. We have also enabled a live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your own meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Kiana Gainey. Kiana is a 20-plus year IT and cybersecurity industry veteran and has served as Chief Executive Officer for SecureTech 360, located in Springfield, Virginia, since its inception in 2010. She is also the Cyber Industry Specialist for the Virginia SBDC. Welcome, Kiana.
Thank you, Sheila, and welcome to everyone today. Thank you for joining. Today we're going to work on and discuss what to do as far as kickstarting your 2026 as we dive into some of the hot topics as it relates to cybersecurity. As a small business owner myself, I know we are inundated with all different news topics and how it relates to our small business, but also how it relates to us securing our small business. So hopefully my intent is that you leave here with some, information to be able to incorporate into your small business as well. Next slide. So as I discussed earlier, we'll kick it off with just some information about where the state of cybersecurity is as it relates to small businesses and how it relates to 2026 and beyond. I'll conclude with some resources and next steps, and we'll do a question and answer session towards the end, and then some contact information. If you say, well, this was great, but I need some more information, we're here to support you as well with that. Next slide. So a little bit about myself. I'm also a small business owner. So, a lot of the items that you'll find today were things that I've probably even been through as starting, a few years back and up until now. Being in the cybersecurity industry, what I've seen is that, there has been a lot of growth around the industry. With growth and even with technology presents even more challenges, especially as a small business owner still trying to navigate budget versus keeping you and yourself and your employees secure, but also being able to secure your infrastructure as you're growing as well. Next slide. So let's just jump right in. One of the biggest items that we as small business owners have to take in consideration is making sure that we have strong cyber defenses. And what does that mean? If you look at some of the statistics that are out right now, 43% of cyber attacks target small businesses. Before, it was more larger or medium-sized businesses that were really, impacted by cybersecurity, but small businesses are now as well. It can impact our finances, our reputation, and sometimes even our trust with our customers. 60% of small businesses close within 6 months of a cyber attack. The only cure to that is prevention. Prevention is the key to resilience. The more that we can, put some things in place to be able to support our small business, even in the event that something happens. Employee training is going to be crucial to being able to help with these prevention methods that we'll talk about today. And our goal today is to equip you with the knowledge and tools to help protect your business, and then also to connect you to resources for ongoing support. Next slide. So, some of the top cyber threats for 2026, not very different from 2025, but the increase, especially with artificial intelligence, the increase of seeing phishing in business emails. And for example, you've seen them, the fake emails that are messages that are impersonating like trusted sources. This actually happened in real time, even in my small business. One of my employees received an urgent email that came from me allegedly. And in the email, it was trying to get her to give out her personal information on WhatsApp and to use WhatsApp to complete a transaction that was supposed to be on behalf of me. And so once she saw that the email first, when it first came in, it didn't have any information in the subject bar. And then when she opened up the email and she saw the body of the email, I normally, send out emails if there's the way that I do tasks in my organization is a totally different way. So that was the first red flag for her. The second was I never, ever, ever would say to any of my employees to use any of their personal devices to do any type of transactions on my behalf. So that was the second thing that she noticed. And then the third thing was that there were some misspelled words. There were a couple of things that seemed off, but we used that email as a way to talk about these type of attacks. They're phishing emails, but they also can be used for social engineering attacks. It was another way that a lot of attackers use to be able to get inside of organizations. And so we talked about the email, the lessons learned, we added it to our training, and we kept the discussion going. And so one thing that I was proud of is that immediately she was able to recognize that it was a fake email. And two, she was able to verify on another source. So she actually just picked the phone and called me and said, "Hey, I received this email. This is what's going on. I know this wasn't from you," but she wanted to what? She wanted to validate it. So, and the reason why that was a successful way of her being able to, one, identify that there was a problem, two, be able to report it, is because one, we have a lot of security policies for our organization. Two, I believe in training, not just on when I initially onboard an employee, but throughout that employee's time with us. We do cyber threats or risk of the week, and we talk about them and we discuss them. So it's embedded into our everyday organization. Now, if you're saying I'm small, I only have one or two employees, even when I didn't have, a lot of employees, the way that I kept abreast of all the new attacks is that I would set alerts, Google alerts about different attacks based on the industries that I was supporting for my clients so that I stayed abreast of that. So the key here that I'm saying is that one of the most valuable tools that you can have is training and also just keeping yourself up to date about the latest trends and threats that impact you and your customer base. So um, that's something that happened to me. But again, in this scenario, even on here, if your employee receives some type of urgent email, they need to definitely be trained on what to do in the event that happens. So putting together something, it doesn't have to be a sophisticated, long-winded training. I started off in my small business with just the slides. I would add the slides to my employee onboarding. I would have them sign rules of behavior about what to do. We went over incident response, at least on an annual basis or whenever a significant change occurred in our organization. And if something did happen, we use those lessons learned to be able to help keep everyone abreast of all the changes and things that are happening in real time. So next slide. So another one. Now, ransomware is by definition is malicious software that locks your files and demands payments to restore access. In 2025, you saw an increase of ransomware attacks going into 2026 that were really targeted towards small business. And some small business owners were like, well, I don't understand what they're trying to take. Now, depending on the type of industry that you're in, attackers not necessarily want to cause disruption. They also want to be able to get to data that maybe be infinite data or data that can lead to something else. The intent is not only for them to want to be paid for unlocking these services, but also to cause some type of disruption as well. So things that you can do as a small business owner is to make sure that one, if you're using certain software or applications within your organization, to make sure that um, if there is a loss of data, if there's, something that happens, the way that you respond is crucial, because one decision, one thing that you don't have, that you're not prepared for, can be a very costly decision. So I have some templates that I can share for incident response, but it goes into detail on who, what, when, and how if something happens in the event that you'll have some type of attack like this. Even for as a small business owner, my first couple of years, I did not necessarily invest in cyber risk insurance, but as I started to grow, that was something else that I added as another preventive tool. So that in the event that something happened, that I will be able to get some type of support outside of my organization if I did not necessarily have like a full-time person to help with these type of attacks or these type of, any type of things that would result in me having a loss of data or any downtime. So just some things to consider. And if you do have some type of business insurance, just check with your provider to see, one, if they have like some additional insurance that you can add into your insurance that you have, or get like a quote to see what it will cost to get some additional cyber risk insurance as another preventive tool. So the key to a lot of these attacks is, one, just having knowledge about what they are, what they do, how they can impact your organization. But also the second part of that is putting in preventive tools to make sure that in the event that something happens, that you know what to do. Next slide. So another one that was really, you started seeing a influx in this in 2024 up until now, where are AI-driven cyber scams. They're using AI to create realistic emails, voices, messages, deep fake voice messages impersonating people that you probably know. Making, verification can be sometimes difficult. They may be asking for payments. These cyber criminals can be very convincing. And so if something feels off, if there's mistakes, awkward wording, like the example that I talked about earlier with my employee who received a random email from a source that said that they were me and they wanted her to use her WhatsApp to be able to process a transaction. So I'm not saying that I'm taking on the DHS slogan, but if you see something, say something. If it feels like there's something wrong, or it's something that is not, it may seem like it's coming from a source a trusted source, but it seems something is off. You never can go wrong by verifying before you take action. In the example that I talked about earlier, my employee just picked up the phone and called me. And when we looked at the email, we were like, oh, wow, this seemed very close to something, but because she knows my behavior and she knows some of the policies and training that we've talked about before, her initial response was, instead of acting, was to pick up the phone and call. So those are the type of things that you can stay in front of to be able to be more preventive than reactive. Next slide. Another one is data privacy and third-party risk. So I know for myself, we use a lot of third-party vendors like payroll providers, cloud services, and sometimes we're also collecting data. Data can be from, credit card information, payment data, employee records. And so one of the biggest things you can do for your organization is, if it's sensitive data, making sure that you know how to handle that sensitive data. A lot of different types of data also have requirements that you should be aware of. So make sure that you're, have all the knowledge and information about what to do with that type of data. For instance, we have a lot of healthcare data, which is a lot of PHI data. And so that is a whole regulatory body that we have to adhere to. So making sure that my employees are trained on, HIPAA and PHI is very important. And so if you're using that type of data, there are a lot of resources out there that you can use to make sure that you and your employees are trained as well. And if you're using third-party vendors for any of these type of supportive services, make sure you understand their privacy policies, understand what will happen in the event that your data is breached. and what to do is also very important to this. So again, a lot of front loading work will help you in the long run. Next slide. Another cost-effective cybersecurity step that actually work are, we talked about a little bit earlier about being preventive. As a small business, you can implement things like multi-factor authentication for email, financial systems, cloud services, making sure you keep your software and systems up to date. 90% of most vulnerabilities, they're looking for systems that are out of date, that haven't had the latest update, so they try to exploit those. If you don't have a consistent way to do regular data backups and also in making sure that those backups are on an offline copy. And also one of the biggest things, and this is regardless of your size, is that testing those backups. Do not wait until an incident happens and then to make sure if that backup was corrupt or not. Make sure that maybe the backup is not copying, on the basis that you need. If it's incremental, if it's daily, if it's annual, making sure that you are doing just your checks on that as well. And again, the biggest, regardless of your size, is training. Training your employees to recognize phishing and scam attempts are going to be very crucial. Just using, it doesn't have to be all these advanced tools. It's just small things that you can do to kind of front load and help your organization as you decide what large investments that you need to make to reduce the risk for yourselves, your infrastructure, your employees, and even your stakeholders and customers as well. Next slide. Again, education, education, education. Conducting those regular cybersecurity training, that's also going to be crucial. Implementing strong passwords. If still using passwords or multi-factor authentication, using those complex passwords. There's some tools out there that you can even use to be able to check your password to see if it's complex or not. It will show you like what's the likelihood of this password being exploited. We'll actually add that to the when we send out the slides. There's some sites I can give you as well for that as well. Backing up your data to make sure that protect you against things like ransomware and system failures, but also making sure you have an offline copy of that data somewhere and testing that data. Those backup as well is going to be very crucial as well. Investing in things like antivirus, firewalls, and making sure that if there are embedded antivirus or firewall within applications that you use, like turn on those services. There's sometimes there as your first level of defense. And you'll be surprised that we will go out and buy things and we may have things that are resonant to the applications that we're using. So do your research on that as well and make sure that you are putting those things in place. Those are just some simple best practices to help strengthen your cybersecurity posture. Next slide. Again, some basic cyber hygiene things I can't emphasize. You see, I put it on 5 slides. Education is key to this. Doing your regular updates, adding second layer of security to your posture, multi-factor authentication, doing those regular backups. Those are all very basic cyber hygiene things that we can do that are low cost, no cost at times. It just costs you some time and energy by putting together some policies, some training, and making sure that you set you either a calendar to make sure that you're regularly doing those regular updates and making sure that you're putting those things in place for your team. Next slide. Affordable tools, some things that are on the market. There's Bitdefender. You can use things like Google Drive just to start off with. Even some of like Google Drive even have paid subscriptions if you just want to start just to see, without paying the price up front. They also have free options that you can use to see if this is something you want to use to back up your information and your data. Investing in antivirus and firewalls, making sure you're using software that will help you be able to not only detect, but also prevent malware as it's coming on as well, are also very key to using some affordable strategies to help with your cyber resilience and also help combat some of the threats that we talked about earlier, like ransomware, and making sure that you're securing your infrastructure as well. Next slide. Also, this is very key. responding to these cyber incidents. Identify, contain. One, like when I gave you the scenario about my employee, the first thing we did in the incident response plan is we took the time to identify, is this really an attack? If it is, what type of attack it is? And based on the type of attack, we put together, we have checklists within our organization on what to do. And we went through it and we made sure that we contain the actual source by one, not responding, two, not um, she took the necessary steps to do her first level. First thing she did, she contacted her supervisor. Her and her supervisor both picked up the phone and called me, and we walked through it. So making sure that your employees know what to do. And then reporting. Time reporting can minimize legal penalties and either rebuild customer trust. Even with some of the larger companies, you'll see them, they'll have to report exactly what's happening. One, they want to make sure that they are letting the public or whoever the customers know what's happening. And then also it helps with the recovery piece of it. And I talked about this earlier. There's different type of cyber insurance that's on the marketplace that can help you with data breaches, anything that will interrupt your business. Sometimes they will carry your small business, even helping with some of these liabilities as you are growing and as you are trying to keep yourself safe from all of these different attacks as they come along. Next slide. So some key takeaways, your small business is not too small to be targeted. I know that's a myth that we only think, oh, it's going to be the larger organizations. I don't really have anything that's valuable. It's only me. I only have me and one other person. When do I get started on this? It's, to me, when you first started your business and you started taking customers or you started supporting clients, that's when this starts. And it can be as simple as just adding a section within your business plan on what you will do in the event that something happened, right? Making sure that you are knowledgeable about what cyber threats are happening in real time. Something simple as putting on Google alerts. That's what I did when I first started. Raising my awareness about the different cyber threats and making sure that they are manageable. Putting basic controls in place to stop most attacks. Building that, rapport of regular training with my employees, being prepared is very key. Implementing proactive measures such as regular security audits, employee training, incident response planning to minimize risk. These are very crucial things that you can do for your small business, because one thing we know that technology is here. It's every day it's becoming more robust, and there are different attacks that are happening as technology is evolving. And as it relates to cybersecurity, we have to make sure that we are staying on top of these evolving threats by making sure that we're knowledgeable about what's going on and making sure that our employees are trained on what to do. Like, these are very simple things that you can implement to implement a security first culture. And what that means is making sure that it's front of mind. It's just as important because the majority of the work that we're doing in some capacity, we're doing something that revolves around technology, that can help us support our customers and even our partners as we are trying to continue to build that trust as well. Next slide. So in conclusion, cybersecurity is not just for the business owner, it's for everyone that's impacted, that's a part of your organization. So putting the time in and being prepared for the unexpected, having that response plan, investing in cyber risk insurance, knowing your emergency contacts can save time and money. For me, I'm still a pen and paper girl in certain regards. I make sure that all of my emergency contacts are kept off-site in a safe on paper. So in the event that, let's say, I can't get to something that's on a SharePoint site or something that's on a Google Drive, that I have that as well. Progress doesn't beat perfection. So what we can do is just start where we're at now. Take the time as we start the new year to look at your processes, look at what you have in place. What can I improve with my business for 2026? How are these new cyber threats, how will they impact my business? And start just, putting together a plan of action and what it will look like in you investing in your small business, whether it be, adding cyber risk insurance or, adding another method of training for your employees, take the time to do that risk assessment or self-assessment of your organization and see where you can, take some of these tools and tips that we talked about today and implement them in your small business. Next slide. Now, any questions? No, we covered a lot.
Did cover a lot. Right now, we don't have any questions, so I will put a shout out to everyone. If anything entered your head while Kiana was speaking, please go ahead and drop it into the Q&A box,
Yes.
and we'll pick her brain live here. And while we wait, Kiana, if you have, I'm going to go ahead. I think the next slide might have some links. So
Yes.
while we wait for questions, I'll go ahead and go over there. And if you want to talk about a couple of those.
Yes. So some of the links and resources that will help you, like you're saying, okay, where do I get started? I mean, there was a lot of information. I heard a lot of things. She kept talking about education. Like I don't have the time to put together a PowerPoint slide. Where can I get started? So a couple of resources that some other small business owners have taken advantage of, and I've gotten some positive feedback from that I would like to share with you. KnowBe4 security awareness training. They have some just very basic cyber and training that you yourself can take as a business owner, just to kind of have that conversation with how you can implement that into your organization. SANS also has a wonderful cyber security awareness training as well, for anything specific to like phishing attacks. Like, what is phishing? How can I, put together more training around this? They also have great resources there as well. Of course, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency also does a wonderful job. They have a lot of great templates, and I also set alerts for this agency as well, so I can know what's happening in real time across the infrastructure, because that also helps to see like what's happening and how I can either remove something or spend more time discussing if I see there's an uptick with more attacks in this area versus that area. That helps me as well. And then the Federal Trade Commission is also another one. I don't know if I have it on here, but Small Business Administration also does a wonderful job and have a wealth of information. And I'll do a shameless plug with our website. We also have some great tools and tricks there as well. Some past webinars, future webinars. If there's specific things you want to kind of get a deeper dive, you're like, okay, this was a great Kickstarter, but I would like to come to some more trainings there. We have that as well for you as well. So.
Absolutely. And we have a couple questions that have come in.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, first one. We have to keep track of a bazillion passwords now, which is so true. Can you suggest good approaches for that, and maybe strong software that we can use for it?
So a good rule of thumb when as it relates to passwords. So this has been, I always say I'm in between two things. There are a lot of password managers that are on the market that I've heard are very effective. And so that is always an option. However, with anything, if you take it outside of yourself, you have to understand now you're introducing some potential new risks to you, right? So if something happened to that password manager, then there's where your passwords are, right? Then you have the other school of thought where they want you to make these long, ridiculous password with 1,000,000 characters. And what do most people do just because it's just human nature? They write them down and they just put them somewhere that they can find them, right? If you're that person, that's fine. I would suggest that you lock it up somewhere that only you have access to, or you have very minimal access to that, those passwords. For me, what I have done now is that I make it into phrases that only I understand. And so, and I also have like a way that add like special characters to it to where if someone else was trying to hack it, they would be probably think that I was insane, one. And two, what does this mean? And so remember that the attacker is trying to find something fast, quick, and in a hurry. So even when you see some of like their phishing emails, it's always urgent, urgent, urgent. Because if they don't get a bite from you, they're moving on to something else, right? So you want to just make it to where you have almost like that, you have like, I know in my cul-de-sac, we have like those speed bumps. It's not to, deter people from necessarily going over the speed bump, and because they're in a rush, but it's for them to just take a pause and go over it, right? So the intent outside of the signs that say 20 miles per hour, right? You still have the people that still go 40 miles per hour, and then you see them kind of flying over the speed bump, and you're saying to yourself, did they not see the sign and they have the speed bump? So I digress. But I said all that to say is that you have to find for yourself which type of person you are and what works best for you. But whatever you do, don't make it so stringent that it's something that you can't use, and don't make it so easy that somebody else can get access to. And using these password managers, if that's something that can help you, use it, but do your research, right? And do your research. And then read those privacy policies and find out from them as you are doing your due diligence about using these type of password managers. What happens in the event of an emergency? What happens if there is a breach? How do you reach out to your customers? Being an informed consumer only helps you in the long run. So that would be my advice for that.
We have another question. How does AI API expose my business to risk?
How does AI APIs expose your business to risk? So I need a little more context. Like, what type of business is it? Um,
Okay. So,
yeah.
Han, if you can elaborate a little bit on that question, that would be great.
Yes, that would help me
Let's
helpful.
see. Another question. The
Mhm.
insurance that you mentioned, what would be a basic cost for it?
So when I first started and got my cyber risk insurance, and this was, I'm dating myself, this was probably about 10 years ago. Um, Over the years, I don't think I spent more than $70, $80 a month. Now has it went up over the years? Yes. I think it's like about $100 to $120 in a month. Now for me, because cybersecurity is part of my business structure, that's a minimal cost for me. Now, for someone else, that maybe you're saying, another 120, another $150 a month, you know, is it worth me doing right now? Right? That's a decision, when we talk about doing that risk assessment for your business, if it's something that you feel like is an investment that's worth it, I would say, do your due diligence, look at some of the marketplace that currently have cyber risk insurance, get 3 quotes and see, and then find out the differences based on your industry. And I wouldn't, and I'm very, when someone try to sell me something like in like a general policy, no, I'm like, listen, this is the type of industry that I'm in. This is why I need this insurance. What will this insurance cover? And have them explain that to you so that you can also do that cost benefit analysis for your organization. Because you may say, well, people will always try to use like that McDonald's method. If I just came in for a Big Mac, they don't want me just to leave with that Big Mac. They want me to leave with the Big Mac, the fries, and the drink. Now, if I'm a person that wants the bundle deal and that makes the most sense for me, yeah, give me the number 3. But if I'm somebody that's on a budget that's like, nope, I only came in for the Big Mac, that's what I'm going to go with. So use that same type of concept as you're doing your due diligence as far as, cost benefit analysis for the cyber risk insurance. Well, I will say I had an incident maybe a few years back where that insurance policy helped me during a breach for one of my clients that happened. It was a third party breach that happened on my side. And so for me, the time, the savings, the way that they were able to, jump in and assist was invaluable. And so for me, that was something that as when I started looking at my annual budget, because I know as a small business owner, I do it every year too, like what goes, what stays, what needs to happen, what I need to add. That was like top of the list because I wanted to make sure that in the event that something happens, that I was prepared. So I hope that answers your question.
Let's see. Another question was So that we don't have to reinvent the wheel, is there a good template for the response matrix after a breach?
Yes, so there are some templates out there. Some of these sites that I gave you will have some, but we'll add it to when we send out some slides. I'll add you some other ones that you can look at. But yes, and for us, like you, depending on like the type of risk, right? There's always like this critical, right? 15 to 20 minutes. Moderate can be, 24 hours, or low can be something we will look at and see. So you can also, as a small business owner, put together what that looks like for your own legend. They do have some like best practices and methods that you can use based on like the type of data and what to do. Now, I would also level set to say that depending on if it's certain types of information, there's always a regulatory body that indicates what type of response you should have based on the risk. So also make sure you educate yourself on that as well.
Okay, so this next question, I think it is referring to the links that are on the screen right now. It says link to any documents that have lists of things to address these things to do.
Yeah, so we'll put together, we'll add that to the slide.
Right, right.
They also have some templates that, to your point, that can help you like put together a checklist on what to do first.
Okay.
So take advantage of all of those type of templates because they do help. If I was getting started and I wanted like a security checklist, I'll put together something too that we can send out to Sheila that can go along with this for
Okay.
everyone to help.
Yeah. And the
Yep.
next question was, would the links be active, usable links? And I'm pretty sure, yeah, we have a lot of resource documents that you include. So they should be usable, active, actable links or actable. Usable active links. If not, you can always copy and paste and put them in your browser, but they should be active links, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Yep, they should be active.
Okay. Right now let's see. Another question. You mentioned Google Drive as a backup. How secure
Mhm.
are the different cloud storage sites like OneDrive and Dropbox?
So they all have a certain level of encryption that's embedded into some of the drives. Sometimes you have to probably take some extra steps within the settings to turn on some of those security features. But in addition to that, you can always put additional security protections on them, like passwords, multi-factor authentication, so that you're also doing that layered approach when it comes to cybersecurity. And then also for myself, I know with my organization, depending on the type of data, there's certain drives that I use for certain things. I know that sounds crazy, but depending on like the encryption levels for Google or maybe even OneDrive, then I may not use it for certain things. Like if it's like a presentation, I may keep that on a OneDrive. So I even go as far as when I put together my security plan for my organization, I nail it down to what can be filed where and for how long. Because outside of that, we also have retention requirements that we keep up with as well. So make sure that, and again, if you have data that is a part of certain regulatory bodies, they also have a way that you can store it and how you should store it, what type of encryption should be used, what type of other things you can put in place. And then in addition to that, retention, which means how long you can keep a document or how long you should keep a document, like i.e. if it's like your accounting data, like how long should you keep that, right? So those type of things. So keep that in mind too as you're thinking about what to save and how to save it and where to save it.
We don't have any other questions. There was no follow up to that one AI question, but I do know we have a webinar coming up in a few
Yes,
months.
yes, yes, yes,
So a little
yes.
plug for that. That will focus on AI. So in March, I think it's March 19th.
Yes.
Definitely save the date for that. Let's see. So the list of things to do to be prepared prior to the breach is what someone's wondering about.
Yes. So just a few things you can do to be prepared. That incident response plan, putting that together is going to be crucial. Education is always going to be crucial because you need to know what to do in the event that something happens. I also, another rule of thumb outside of like my contact list, I have a physical copy that and my staff said I'm extra, but I have a physical copy that I keep in my safe at home. So in the event that something happens, and even though they teased me about it in COVID, when we couldn't get to our offices and we couldn't get to certain things, my handy dandy paper was there when we needed to call a customer service rep, or, or places where people will usually get from their email or get for certain places, or, things that we had in the office and we couldn't get there. My little handy dandy came it was a worthy handy dandy. It was like, oh, can you get the document? I need a contact information off of this person. So certain things or certain principles, although we have all the technology in the world, I always, rule of thumb of things that before there was technology, it worked too. Technology was something to probably make it go faster, or, be more accessible, but use some of those same type of principles if they are, are something that you can do in your organization as well. It will help you in the long run.
All right, we don't have, well, just as I was saying, we don't have any other questions. So I think this is a follow-up to that. The list of things to do are a link to a document like a handbook of security actions to prevent attacks.
Okay, yeah. So those links that we provided can kind of help you put together that type of handbook to your organization. Now, some things are not going to all be a one size fit all, because every organization, every business is going to be different, but we can definitely, point you in the right direction and give you some links for just some best practices for you to consider, so that you can put together this handbook. We'll definitely be able to do that when we do our follow-up, and we'll send that out to you as well.
Yeah, I will add to that yes, Kiana gives us so much information. She just usually gives me file after file to share with you all. So if you're like me and you like a lot of information, you're going to get it.
Yes. You'll make sure you get it. But thank you for the questions, because they help us really
right.
know what you need, so that we can make sure that you have the items that you need.
Exactly.
Yep.
Kiana, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm going to say we can go ahead and end now, a little early, if anyone who hasn't had their lunch yet. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. I'm going to remind you that you're going to get that email with a link to the recording, to the slides, and to the other resources that we promised. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org /training. This webinar and other SBD resources are designed to be used in collaboration with your local SBDC advisors. You can sign up for a free and confidential session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we hope to see you all in our next session. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.